It was a bitterly cold Christmas Eve in downtown Los Angeles, and a group of high school bullies, Ryan, Chad, and Derek, were hanging out near the city's biggest mall. They had no interest in the festive cheer around them, nor did they care about the thousands of families who had gathered to enjoy the holiday season. These three were known around town for picking on the weak, making fun of anyone they deemed an easy target. Their reputation for cruelty had earned them the respect of their fellow classmates, but their hearts were as cold as the winter air. Tonight, they had their eyes set on the perfect target, the mall Santa. The elderly man, who had been handing out gifts to children all afternoon, looked like a typical holiday figure, cheerful, kind, and eager to spread joy. To Ryan, Chad, and Derek, he was just another fool in a costume, someone they could pick on for fun. They were tired of the usual pranks, but this one felt different, bigger, more daring. They imagined how funny it would be to make a fool of Santa in front of all the families who were walking by. After all, what could possibly go wrong? With their eyes glinting with mischief, the bullies made their way towards Santa, their laughter cutting through the air. The old man was in the middle of handing out small wrapped gifts to the children sitting on his lap, smiling and asking them what they wanted for Christmas. But when he saw the group approaching, his gaze didn't falter. He didn't seem to mind, not even when Ryan shoved past a few children to stand directly in front of him. The Santa merely looked up with a gentle smile, his hands resting on the armrests of his chair. "Hey, old man," Ryan sneered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "How about you let us take over this gig? You look like you're ready to call it quits. I bet we could do a better job than you." The other two bullies joined in, snickering and making rude comments. They expected Santa to be flustered or angry, but instead, the old man's smile remained. He didn't say anything, just watched them with quiet amusement. For a moment, Ryan, Chad, and Derek felt a twinge of doubt. But it passed quickly. They were used to breaking people's spirits, and this was no different. But unbeknownst to them, this Santa wasn't just any old mall performer. This Santa had a story, and it was one that would turn the tables in ways they could never have imagined. The elderly man dressed as Santa Claus wasn't someone hired by the mall to entertain for a few hours. He was someone who had seen the very worst of the world, and because of that, he had made it his mission to change it. Just days before Christmas, Elon Musk had been attending a charity event where he heard a conversation that broke his heart. A little girl, no older than 6, had been speaking to her mother. "Before Christmas, Santa never gives me any gifts. I think I've been forgotten." The girl's voice trembled, and her eyes were filled with a sadness that Elon couldn't shake. He saw her, standing there in a crowd, and something about her stuck with him. Later that evening, as he lay in bed, Elon couldn't stop thinking about the child's words. He realized that while many kids were enjoying the excitement of the holiday, there were others who didn't feel that magic. There were too many children, like that little girl, who felt left behind, who were overlooked. They didn't have a warm home to return to, didn't have the luxury of celebrating Christmas with presents and a big family dinner. To them, Christmas was just another day. But it didn't have to be that way. In that moment, Elon made a decision. This Christmas, he wouldn't just sit idly by. He wouldn't just be the billionaire CEO who gave out large checks to charities. No, he would do something more. He would become Santa Claus, not just for the kids in the fancy neighborhoods who always had everything they needed, but for the ones who didn't, for the ones who lived on the streets, who spent their nights in the parks or under bridges, the kids who were forgotten by the world. He would make sure that every child felt seen, that every child got a gift. It wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about spreading hope where it was needed the most. Elon donned the red suit, became Santa Claus, and set out to deliver gifts. His mission was clear. He wasn't here to play games. He was here to give hope to children who had long been forgotten by society. But as fate would have it, A group of high school bullies were lurking nearby, their eyes scanning the mall for a target they could mess with. Ryan, Chad, and Derek were known around town for picking on the weak, and they immediately spotted the perfect opportunity for some twisted holiday fun. They thought they had found the ultimate mark, an elderly man in a Santa suit, looking harmless and unassuming. What they didn't realize was that they were dealing with someone far more powerful than they could ever imagine. To them, Santa was just another silly figure in a red suit, but they had no idea that behind the jolly costume stood Elon Musk, the billionaire CEO who had decided to be Santa for a reason far greater than just a holiday gimmick. "Hey, old man," Ryan sneered, pushing Santa's chair aside with a rough shove. "Maybe you should just retire and let us take over this gig. We could do a better job than you. Look at you, you're just a joke." The bullies laughed among themselves, finding amusement in their supposed superiority. They couldn't understand why anyone would take a man dressed as Santa seriously. But to their surprise, the man in the suit didn't flinch. He didn't show a hint of anger or frustration. Instead, he looked up at them with calm, collected eyes, a faint smile curling on his lips. "You boys think you can have fun at my expense?" he asked, his voice not harsh but firm, carrying a depth that made the bullies hesitate. His eyes twinkled, and there was something in the way he carried himself, something far more powerful than just holiday cheer. "Let's see how fun this really is." Before they could even process what was happening, the bullies found themselves frozen in place as Santa reached down to his wrist. There was a sudden whirring sound, and without warning, a drone appeared out of nowhere. The tiny machine zipped through the air, effortlessly snatching a glitter-filled snow globe from Derek's hands. It hovered above them for a brief moment before zipping out of the mall entrance, flying high into the sky, leaving the bullies staring in shock and confusion. "Wait, what?" Derek stammered, looking at his empty hands. "What just happened? Where did it go?" Confused and now realizing something was amiss, the bullies stepped back, their bravado beginning to slip. The crowd, who'd been watching the spectacle unfold, began murmuring among themselves, sensing that something strange was going on. Chad, clearly unsettled, shouted out, "What the hell is going on here?" "This is just some stupid prank, right?" But Santa, Elon, stood up slowly from his chair, the crowd now in complete silence as they waited for what would happen next. Elon, with a calm smile, began to peel off his red suit, slowly removing the white beard and red hat, revealing a face no one could mistake. It was none other than Elon Musk, the tech billionaire and visionary standing before them. The realization hit the bullies like a freight train, their faces draining of color. The crowd gasped, and the bullies stood frozen in horror as they began to understand the magnitude of their mistake. They hadn't just mocked some random mall performer. They had humiliated one of the most powerful men in the world, the person they least expected to be wearing that suit. Elon gave them a mischievous grin, his voice low but filled with a playful tone. "I could have called security," he said, his words laced with a knowing calm. "But this seemed more fitting." His gaze swept over the stunned crowd, who were now filming everything on their phones. "You see," he continued, "sometimes it's more fun to let people learn a lesson in the moment rather than punish them right away." He glanced down at his wrist again, tapping a small button. Suddenly, the mall's security system buzzed to life. The bullies' phones, still in their hands, began lighting up with an alert. "Your bullying has been broadcasted live to over 1 million viewers." The bullies stared in disbelief as their phones filled with notifications, each one reminding them that their cruel behavior was no longer a private joke. It was being watched by people all over the world. The reality of the situation sank in as their phones buzzed incessantly, showing countless notifications of comments and shares flooding in. Within seconds, the video of their mockery was going viral, their faces now immortalized as the internet roasted them for their actions. Ryan's hands trembled as he read the comments on his phone. Is this for real? Who messes with Elon Musk and lives to tell the tale? These guys are going to regret this. How embarrassing. Everyone's watching these guys get owned by Santa. The bullies were no longer in control of the situation, and their once confident smirks had faded into embarrassed silence. Elon, still smiling, turned his attention back to them. Next time, maybe think twice before trying to embarrass someone who's just trying to spread a little holiday cheer. After all, it's not about what you take, it's about what you give. Without another word, Elon glanced at his wrist one more time, and Tesla's discreet security team moved in, stepping forward to escort the stunned bullies out of the mall. The crowd, who had been silently watching the drama unfold, erupted into applause, and even some of the children cheered as the bullies were led out of the building, their heads hanging low in shame. But as the bullies were escorted out, their phones continued to buzz. Tweets and messages continued to pour in. Their humiliating video had been shared by thousands, and soon news outlets would be covering the story of how they had messed with the wrong Santa. In the span of just a few moments, their lives had changed forever. Later that night, as the bullies sat in the comfort of their homes, trying to forget the humiliation they had endured at the mall, they received an unexpected package. The doorbell rang late, and when they opened it, a single black box sat on the doorstep. It was simple, unmarked, just a plain box with no indication of who it was from. The three of them exchanged confused glances, wondering if it was some kind of prank or a late Christmas gift. But when they opened the box, their faces drained of color. Inside was a large, rough chunk of coal. But this wasn't just any ordinary piece of coal. The surface was stamped with the unmistakable Tesla logo, a symbol they instantly recognized. Beneath the coal was a small, folded card with a message written in elegant handwriting. "Merry Christmas, here's some coal. I hope it helps you reflect on your actions." Ryan, Chad, and Derek stared at the card, the weight of the words sinking in. But what struck them most wasn't just the coal. It was the fact that Elon Musk, the very man they had mocked and ridiculed, had been the one to send this gift. They had no idea how he had done it or how he had known where they lived, but there was no denying it. The message was clear. This wasn't just a harmless joke. This was a powerful reminder of their cruelty, and they felt its sting deep in their chests. Ryan, who had been the most vocal of the group, broke the silence. "What the hell is this supposed to mean?" he muttered, his hands trembling as he ran his fingers over the cold black stone. "This isn't funny. This is terrifying." Chad snatched the card from Ryan's hand and read it aloud again, his voice faltering. "Maybe next time, give back to the world instead of taking from it." The words seemed to echo through the room, and for the first time, the trio realized the gravity of their actions. They hadn't just embarrassed a mall Santa, they had crossed a line they shouldn't have, and the consequences were going to follow them for a long time. Meanwhile, far away from the chaos he had set in motion, Elon was busy with his real mission. He hadn't just become Santa to teach a lesson to a group of bullies. His heart, which had been touched by the stories of children suffering during the holidays, led him to spend his evening making sure those who truly needed Christmas cheer received it. In a quiet park on the outskirts of the city, a group of homeless children sat huddled together, trying to keep warm against the bitter cold. They had no families, no homes, no presents, and no hope of celebrating a traditional Christmas. For them, the holiday was just another reminder of what they didn't have. But Elon wasn't just going to let them go without a little joy. He approached them quietly, wearing a simple jacket and a red scarf, blending in so he wouldn't draw attention to himself. He didn't want any fanfare or recognition. He just wanted to help. The children looked up in surprise as he approached, and Elon gave them a warm smile. "Merry Christmas," he said softly, his eyes sparkling with genuine care. "I brought you something special." With that, he began to hand out warm blankets, toys, and even jackets he had personally bought. He spent hours in the cold, making sure that every child received something. It wasn't just about the gifts. It was about showing them that they weren't invisible, that they weren't forgotten. Even in the most difficult of circumstances, they mattered. For some of the children, it was the first time they had ever felt the warmth of a gift, and for others, it was a small moment of normalcy in an otherwise harsh world. As he continued to give, he made sure to take the time to speak with each child, listening to their stories and offering words of encouragement. Elon's presence, though humble, meant the world to these kids. They had seen enough of the world turning a blind eye to their pain, but tonight they had someone who cared. Back at the bullies' homes, the reality of their actions continued to sink in. They spent the rest of the night watching the footage of their humiliation, the video of them being escorted out of the mall by Tesla security looping endlessly on social media. The internet had erupted with reactions, from people mocking them to others expressing sympathy for what they had just learned the hard way. Some comments were playful, others downright ruthless, but there was one universal truth. They would never live down the day they messed with the wrong Santa. And then, as the world continued to react to the viral video of the bullies' public humiliation, another message began to take hold. Elon Musk's unexpected act of kindness. His quiet, humble Christmas mission had caught the world's attention. It wasn't about the fancy cars, the space ventures, or even his billions. It was about the joy of giving and showing the world that kindness is the greatest gift anyone can offer. The story of Elon Musk becoming Santa for the homeless, of the gifts he gave to those who truly needed them, spread across the globe. It was shared on every social media platform, and news outlets praised him for his generosity. He had set an example that Christmas wasn't about the presents you get. It was about the love, compassion, and kindness you give to others. And for the bullies, it wasn't just the coal they would remember. It was the feeling of embarrassment, of realizing they had taken something beautiful and twisted it for their own amusement. It was a lesson they would never forget, one that would stay with them for a long time. They would always remember the Christmas when they messed with the wrong Santa, and for the world, it was a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always room for a little holiday magic if you're willing to give it.